Hello there folks, this is Ferengi on board, this time with a video on spirituality. I've made one or two videos about my game recently, so it's time I return to spiritual things before I can actually drop another update on my game. Welcome to my YouTube channel, a channel where I post things almost regularly about spirituality, introspection, dream interpretation, and different other such topics where I dive deep, presenting different truths and feelings that I have perceived throughout my existence and sharing them with the world because, well, I feel one of my purposes is to acquire wisdom even if I'm still very young and share that wisdom with the world because it won't serve me much, especially when, after someone perishes, all the wisdom they have acquired no longer serves them. Well, probably in other lives for sure, but in this life it is much better to share things that one has acquired. So the topic that I came up today to discuss upon is hearing things and actually seeing things. And this is something that throughout history we know that people have been seeing things, they have been hearing things, and well, it's become a common fact that if something like this happens to someone, they'll almost instantly be classified as insane or having lost their mind. Surely there is still some little truth to this in the sense that one may not necessarily be far away from losing their mind, but that may also be a case. So, what could this be, and is that something that happens for real? Well, indeed, it does happen for real. Most likely, society may teach us that it's just in our mind, and yes, it is in our mind. Now, people do not understand that life exists at multiple dimensions, and one of them is the mental dimension. Okay, and well, English is also an occult construct, which means that most, or let's say many of its words actually have a different subconscious meaning as well, which implies that people, when using these words, they actually cast little, let's say, spells upon themselves because basically words are like magic. Of course, magic is not something that happens instantly, just like one sees on television and in, fantasy movies. But the point is, words and things that we speak actually have a certain power, and they also influence us one way or another. Now, the thing is, that is why when someone goes to school, they learn how to spell, but school kind of teaches you, more like instead of self-empowering beliefs, they kind of teach you how to pull yourself down, and kind of the rest of society also does that because most likely our family does this, and relatives, even some of our closest friends may end up pulling us down, and in the end we kind of end up pulling ourselves down quite the most. When we do this, people, well, we are not that knowledgeable of how much damage we can actually deal to ourselves, and a part of this can actually deal to some mental problems. But the question is, are these necessarily problems? Now, when people start hearing things or seeing things or both from a spiritual aspect and a psychological aspect, they're not necessarily insane. They have just become a bit more in tune with the world around them. And well, I can say from personal experience, once someone gets a bit of touch by the madness of spirituality, it means that they are starting to break down. Now, this breaking down means moving away naturally. Even if someone actually poses a lot of resistance, this process will still go on irrespective of how much resistance one puts. And of course, the problem is it's gonna be a lot more painful if resistance is put. Now, from a mental aspect, hearing and seeing things is just a proof of becoming more aware and more sensitive to different things happening around us. Now, if people watching this video are against spirituality, probably you should not watch this video. I'm not gonna dive too deep though, but the point is there are different dimensions to this existence far beyond this aspect of physicality. Now, one of the proof of such dimensions is dreams, because dreams are nothing else than the mind searching things within its own dimensions. And the dimensions of mind are many, thousands, probably even more. And while dreaming, people just explore only a tiny fraction of those. It could be parallel lives, it could be just imagination. There can be a lot of possible explanations. But when people start hearing and listening to those things, and well, when they start actually seeing things, it's most likely something spiritual that starts taking place. It is just glimpses that the universe allows you to see, just to remind you that you are more than simple physicality, more than a bit of karma that has been accumulated before finally incarnating in this world. And well, there are many reasons why people may hear things beyond the physical. Hearing your name is, one of the things that, as of what's been said, is quite common. People hear their name being called, but when they look around, no one's logically and physically around to call them. And well, it is a sign that different entities want to keep you in check, to remind you that everything will be okay. And it might be spirit guides or something similar to this. Hearing different other things like voices, that can be a sign of certain chakras opening, which they're not necessarily a sign of madness, but they may not be far away from either. Now, when a certain chakra opens, usually the heart chakra, people can start actually hearing things. Now, the things that they can actually start hearing is different sounds related more or less to instruments, as of what I've heard, and they are short sounds usually. Now, when you also start seeing things, that's usually when people may freak out a bit more, and there are a lot of things to see beyond the physical. And to an unprepared mind, that can actually be a frustrating experience, or not necessarily. Now, seeing different entities around, there can be numerous reasons. When someone sees dark entities around, they're not necessarily the dark people, those beings that are said to pop up from nowhere, especially when experiencing sleep paralysis. These entities usually have a habit to feed upon emotions, and kind of nothing more. The only reason why such beings would attack people, as of what I felt, is more or less a kind of karmic debt repayment. The reason why one can be attacked is because of abuses they may have done in this life or previous lives. And well, one thing that I learned from Reiki is that the reason why someone is attacked is they themselves, because things that we do in life allow different things to happen to us, and abuses that we do allow different attacks to happen on us. Maybe not in this current life, but karmic debt is something that is acquired. Even if it is burned throughout a certain life, it's not a complete circle, and karma may not entirely be consumed, which is also impossible because we are also karma ourselves. Now, when listening to those voices, some may actually hear words, and this can be again due to several things. If one is hearing sounds, they're just becoming a bit more in tune with the universe, and I assure you there are a lot of sounds to hear, like even some kind of radio frequencies. It's just things that happen in the auric field. If you're feeling different blows and whistles around your ears, usually there's different changes, purges, or I don't know, different things that happen within the auric field. Usually these can be heard at night when going to sleep, because usually we are much more relaxed, and we are also much more susceptible. That is why many attacks against us can actually happen at night. And yes, I've had a few of these happen to me. Fortunately, the universe is at my side. Now, the point with beings that may come to you, and they always come, the point is these beings will always feed upon different energies, and some of them may actually become parasitic, and they may actually create a habit of causing you to manifest certain lower vibrational emotions so that you actually feed them. There's nothing more they would want, and possession is something that doesn't happen, and well, it's most likely something that takes a really long time to happen anyways, and let's not worry about this. When people see things, it's a clear sign from the universe that there are more things beyond the physical, and people might need to experience this more than just once. When such beings can be seen, well, it may be just because those beings are still enveloped by a lot of karma, which karma makes them a lot more, not necessarily physical, but they make them more susceptible to being perceived by people who are very sensible, okay? People who are very sensitive, because that's one of the reasons why people may see a ghost. People who have died in horrible ways, they have created a lot of karma, and especially their torturers, because whatever you give, you also receive. Torturers will always get impregnated with the karma that their victims produce, and they also produce karma for themselves through the pain that they're inflicting to the target and also to themselves at the same time, because well, energy is contagious. And that will manifest most likely in a different life, because people will experience what they chose to experience. If in a certain life someone chose to experience life as a butcher, well, most likely they won't feel the outcomes of the karmic debt they have acquired in that current life. Now, seeing black entities, entities that are usually black and humanoids, it's not necessarily that they look like that. They can actually be far more complex, but not having those senses to develop might actually have them appear like that. Just like in a video game, usually characters have a default apparition before all their details are rendered. It's, let's call it something similar to that. Now, hearing things can also be due to chakra activation, specifically the heart one, or Vishuddha as well, the chakra of the sound. Seeing beings is something that will most likely happen when Vishuddha will open. It is said that when this chakra starts opening, even for a bit, different entities will simply be drawn to that, because it is a chakra of great power. Its energy drives a lot of entities insane, and it's not necessarily the fact that they will attack you, they're just drawn and mesmerized by so much energy, because people may not understand that discarnate beings are not as powerful as we are taught they are. Most of them become parasitic just because they require desperately that much energy. And yes, there are a lot of parasites, but some beings just prefer coming around us and feed themselves with the hatreds, anger, and all sorts of things that we have created, and they remain in our auric field. And these beings most likely love feeding upon that, and it's also in a way good because they're cleansing us a bit. Okay. Now, breathing is also something that may lead to something like this. Okay, psychological trauma and all these damages actually improve a certain person and make that person a lot more susceptible. But unfortunately, society still teaches us that when these happen, you are mentally broken, and as I said, English is an occult construct, and I do believe that psychiatry is wrong in a lot of things. Mainly, I believe that, for example, psychopathy is something that, if you take it word by word, it means mentally broken, right? From psycho, which means mind, and, pathia, which means disease. But I take it to a further level, and I take it as a mental communication, because patia can also mean communication, like telepatia. Okay, and psychopaths could be very good mental communicators because they end up being very cerebral, since they are not very much aware of the emotions that they have, but they do have emotions. Okay, I already have some videos on emotions. Now, the point with hearing things thanks to your breathing is when people start really meditating, and when people start breathing slower and slower, the amount of breaths per minute someone can take, and naturally speaking, not because they force it, when people lower their breathing state, okay, naturally, and they realize that they don't need to breathe as fast as we generally do, but more deeply and slower after all. The point is, when one reaches natural states in which they naturally breathe again, I repeat this, they naturally breathe slower, they might actually start reaching different levels of experience and different levels of awareness. And they might actually start hearing that even the wind has a certain voice, and I assure you it does have different voices, and I assure you that you'll start hearing much more. And well, one of the most advanced states that can be reached is that of actually hearing the vibration of things around, and one can actually start hearing the voices of nature, for example voices of trees, for example, and may start understanding even animals. Okay, these are different levels of awareness, but society still teaches us that, hey, there's something wrong with you, you must see a psychiatrist. Okay, now the purpose of this video is just a bit of an eye-opener and a bit of a teaser, and it's more like an invitation for people to start digging up on this if they ever feel curious on this. I will wrap this video up because I don't want it to go any further, and I also need to leave. So until next time, you are loved and appreciated. Continue doing all the internal work that you're doing. Take care, and well, have an awesome day. Ferenc on board signing out.